This is Trent and Jason from the Thunder Underground podcast, and welcome to our first Every Album in a Row reaction, I guess you could call it. Start doing this now with random bands. Decided to start with the big one, and I guess just to explain that, I'll let Jason take over because you were just randomly doing this, and I said, hey, let's record a reaction video about it.
Well, my favorite band, we all know that. Anyways, I had just kind of decided to do this because, it's, Metallica's the new record tour, they're on everybody's brain right now.
You're listening to Hardwired heavily.
Yeah, I'm listening to the new one heavily. I'm getting psyched up for this summer. Netflix just put some kind of monster on. They put,
oh, that's right.
Yeah, they put that on Netflix, excuse me. And I watched it, again, because I hadn't seen it in years. And so I just, we all have our favorite band that we get stuck on. So I just was like, there's so much of the stuff I have not listened to in a while. And so I just said, I'm just going to start at the beginning and listen to each album. And, I didn't get into S&M or all the live stuff. I mean, I just studio albums, Garage Inc. I listened to the two new songs on S&M, which aren't new now, but they were new then. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just went straight through to Hardwired. So that's in the middle of that, I was telling you about it. And that's when he had this idea. So Here we are.
So you started doing this midweek and whenever I think late week. And
because I'm just a geek. I'm a nerd. So that's what we do. Yeah,
when we started going back and forth about it, I said, hey, we should record a reaction. I guess it wouldn't make sense for me to just sit here and ask you questions about it. We could both do it. So I just started doing the same thing the other day.
Definitely.
We both did it on our own time. On Kill 'Em All and went clear to the end. Basically from hit the lights to spit out the bone. And
it's like I said, what do we leave out? What can we include? We kind of started texting back and forth about what's the rules here? So it was kind of a fun thing.
So basically you kind of already explained it, but when we do this with future bands too, every recording or like you picked the live ones that were never recorded in a studio, but they were newer songs. So if they have compilations out, you skip it unless it's a compilation of unreleased material or B-sides and stuff. Kind of like we talked, if we do Megadeth, we would listen to Hidden Treasures.
Yes, exactly.
And, that kind of thing.
It's like, you don't need to listen to the Ride the Lightning deluxe version with 22 different demos of For Whom the Bell Tolls. We don't have to do that.
And if we did Kiss, if we listened to the compilations, we would be here 8 weeks from now because it would take
just on compilations
7 weeks to get through the greatest hits albums.
And you'd hear 8 songs 100 times or whatever, So that's kind of how we came to this,
Which is another interesting tidbit that Metallica being one of the biggest bands in the world and they've never had a greatest hits album.
Well, no, I don't know. I guess they just don't need to.
Yeah.
I think
that's kind of cool.
The closest thing is that Through the Never soundtrack thing. So, and I did not listen to that because that's all just old material.
Right.
So,
Starting off, the thing is everybody knows all these albums.
Yes.
We know all these albums, but like you said, there's a lot of stuff you haven't listened to in a long time. I frankly haven't listened to Kill 'Em All straight through. I've listened to tons of the songs here or there and playlist or whatever, but I've listened to the 4 after that in its entirety in recent times. And then, of course, everything after that, I haven't except for Hardwired. Yeah. So there was a good chunk of this, that was like a refresher. And then when you listen to everything in a row, like how they never had an album that sounded like another album.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They're one of those bands that progressed every single album, whether it was to something you liked or not. But even from Kill 'Em All to the first it's a Ride the Lightning, you can tell the difference. And
Exactly.
it's like Ride the Lightning, they went in that more epic route from where they were just like this straight up balls out thrash band. And then from Ride the Lightning to Master of Puppets, it became this grand, epic thrash thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like you said, no, each album sounds different. And it's, I was thinking about this earlier and, what I was going to say. And that's really right on the money. It kind of echoes what I was going to say. It all sounds like Metallica, but each one is different. Obviously on the later stuff, it's way different. But even though it's like those first 4 or 5 records are they're so unique to themselves, but it still sounds like Metallica. And it's each one of those albums is just a perfect blueprint. It's just, Metallica is one of those bands like, the big guys, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, that, these are the bands that are like, showing you how to do it. And that's what I really took from the first 4 or 5 records. I thought that was really cool. And it's like, I kind of always knew that, obviously, but just going through them completely, because I haven't done that in years, it just really, really drove that home. And it was just a really cool process to see.
Yeah. More so now, you always knew that the Black Album sounded different than everything before it. Not just production wise, but they did make that change, but I guess we were young enough that we weren't in that group of people that it pissed off,
Yeah.
That was like the older generation that got butthurt, kind of like we did with Load to an extent. Not as much, I guess, but trying to say is when you listen to those 4 albums and then the Black Album right after it, it's way more evident why I could see if I was one of those guys that grew up with Metallica from the day that Kill 'Em All came out. I might have been a little pissed.
Yeah,
because,
definitely.
You listen to some. I love the Black Album. I have no problem admitting it. I like every single song on that album. Big difference between, at least 10 of those songs compared to anything earlier.
Oh, definitely.
But then another thing that jumped out at me on those first albums was, I've listened to stuff off of And Justice for All millions of times over the last many years, and we've all talked about the production on that album.
Yeah.
But people whine about how Lars's drums sounded on Saint Anger. That fucking snare drum on All is as bad as Saint Anger. I'll say it right here. I don't give a shit.
It is. I mean, that you're right.
And people talked about the lack of bass, but I'm like, that snare drum is driving me crazy.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, and that brings up a great point. And really, the whole album's pretty thin. I mean, it's great. It's great songs, great riffs, like insane riffs. We know that.
It's great. Like the album, in its entirety is fucking great.
Yeah. But yeah, the production, and sometimes it sounds pretty tinny, and but at the same time, I wouldn't want to go back and change anything. So
you got to wonder whenever, because they did the Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning reissues with the remasters.
Yeah.
So the big thing I'm sure everybody's wondering is when they get to Justice, turn the bass up. What everybody wants them to do, or do you think they're just going to leave it the same but just make it a little thicker sounding?
We shall see. There was just a quote. There's a quote in all the websites just a couple days ago from James saying, you look back on it and there probably should have been bass, or that snare on Saint Anger did sound like shit. But he also did stress that, it's a picture in time and all that blah, 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 blah. And why would you change it? It shows where we were at the time.
Right.
All this kind of stuff. So
as annoying as I thought the snare drum on the majority of that album and Justice for All was, it doesn't stop me from wanting to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like the end of the world or anything.
Exactly. I totally agree.
To reiterate, it's really cool to hear those all in a row, just to hear that progression on the classic stuff.
Yeah.
Even, because everybody talks about how they changed later. I mean, they were changing that whole time.
Yeah. And And on like the Black album, one thing that kind of just stuck with me going back over it is, you know, a lot of those songs I haven't heard in a long time, because whenever I see something that says Inner Sandman or Sad But True or Nothing Else Matters, I just skip.
Right.
Because God, I've heard those songs. They're great songs. I've heard them a million times and won't hear them anymore.
Yeah.
But I just was like, I'm going to listen to this. And I let it take me back to 1992 when I was a kid. And, you know, you have to forget not these songs' fault that they're so overplayed.
Right.
You know, it's not these songs' fault that, you know, they're so huge. You just have to, go back, start, and just, you know, appreciate each one of them for just being fucking great.
Yeah.
You know, and try to forget that you've heard it on the radio 8 million times.
But it's like that album, you know, you think of huge albums that had a ton of radio hits, like Appetite for Destruction or Hysteria.
Yeah.
Where when you take all the songs that weren't radio hits that are just fucking amazing, that's how that album is. When you look at My Friend of Misery, The God That Fell, Through the Never, The Struggle Within, Of Wolf and Man, those are like the best songs on the album.
They sure are. I'm going to tell you something. My Friend of Misery, The God That Failed, Struggle Within, the best last 3 songs on a record ever, of anyone ever.
Wow. I'd have to think about that to see if I could.
I'm calling it now. That's just, those are 3 just insane songs. I mean, I wish they played those songs more.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fantastic.
And didn't Newstead write My Friend of Misery?
Yeah, I think he helped write that. Yeah.
See, that goes to show they should have let him do more.
I know. What the hell? He might have still been in there, man.
Right. Well, so the next step after those 5 albums is Load.
Yeah.
And I've said a million times that when that came out, I was like 95% of people, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know, I was so pissed off. I didn't hate it, but I was just mad. And because they didn't sound like I thought they should sound, which, you know, who's to say that I'm in charge of anything, right? Or anybody else. But I always thought back then, even, you know, pretty early on, that if this had been some band I never heard of, I would think they were amazing.
Yeah.
And so I like the album, and I still do. But I haven't listened to it in its entirety in quite a long time. And listening to it again, I almost move it from liking it to loving it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? What made you?
I don't know. Just
move up that much.
You know, I knew all the songs. It's Reload, and when we get to Reload, which is where I hadn't listened since probably back then.
Yeah.
You know, and forgot half those songs because I hadn't listened to them. So on Load, I remember most of them. But just hearing them all together and taking it, and just listening to it as music, not as master puppets, you know. It's good music, and you know, it's got all those groovy riffs, which I've always loved bands that, you know, have that groove and that, you know, kind of swagger kind of thing.
Definitely.
And you know, the solos, even on Reload, both those albums, you know, he's playing all these bluesy solos that are just badass. You know, and they're totally different from all the stuff he did before and even since. I don't know. I just like it way more than I remember liking it, you know, because I just, like I said, I've only listened to songs here and there. Like I'll listen to Wasting My Hate once every 2 weeks still to this day because I fucking love it. But like every other song on there, I'm just kind of like, if I hear it, I hear it. If not, I'm not. But it's a totally different story, but I don't know what you have to say about Load.
Well, I mean, you know, what you're saying, you know, with solos and stuff, that's just one more thing that kind of shows how, I mean, they're true artists, and they're metal, but still pull it off, you know, with, you know, trying different things. And I look at Load and Reload kind of as one thing, because I know it was all recorded at the same time, I'm pretty sure. And but you know, I do like Load a little bit better than Reload. But you know, and I've said this to you, I've said it on the podcast a million times, I've said it for 20 years. Everyone always, you know, it's just because Until It Sleeps was like the first single out there that everyone heard.
Yeah.
That gave everyone that little.
I still don't like that song, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
my least favorite
it's
song
probably
on
my
that
least favorite song. Yeah, definitely. Everyone was like, "Oh, they went alternative. They went alternative." Well, no, they fucking didn't. Half a brain and listen to the whole album. They kind of went more blues. They kind of went hard rock. They didn't go alternative. And if you still say that, then you're a dipshit.
You're basing it off of some eyeliner.
Yeah, exactly.
Better boa picture.
Yeah, you're basing it off some stupid video. And I mean, and you know, it's easy to go to that route, but you can't do it. And I just think that like Hero of the Day is great. I think it's just so different, and maybe it's not them totally, but God, I love that song. It's just fucking epic, and you know, I think that it kind of makes me. I'd like to hear Bleeding Me with like some Black Album production, you know.
Oh yeah,
because you know the production on Load and Reload is just a little bit looser and rawer, and you know, funner in a way, if you know what I mean. And I just, you know, I really, it was just their era of just hanging out there and doing something different and weird. And, you know, maybe it didn't seem like the right thing. Maybe it was a little weird, but I think it worked. And I think it helped them get back to where they're at now in a way. So, you know,
and see, so many people talk shit about that, but they go see them live and they're going to sing every word to King Nothing or something.
Yes, exactly.
Or Fuel or whatever.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. They're going to go nuts when, you know, they play, everyone goes nuts when they play Memory Remains and all that kind of stuff, you know. But, you know, kind of some.
They need to play 2x4, by the way.
Yeah, they do. Now, and that's kind of what I was going to go into, is some unsung gems from that era, those two albums, 2x4, you know, Devil's Dance, Prince Charming. God, I love Prince Charming. That's like one song I wish they would play live, and they probably never will.
Right.
But that song is just so underrated and so badass. So yeah, I mean, there's some jewels in there, you know, that people just kind of pass over, I think.
Right. Like that comment that, what if you took the best half of Load and the best half of Reload, put them together, you'd have a really good album. Yeah. But after listening to them back to back, that's not true at all. It's like 85% Load and 15% Reload, because it's like they recorded these all at once, but obviously these are the leftovers, in my opinion. I mean, outside of like, I like the Memory Remains, you know, Prince Charming, like you said, Low Man's Lyric, Attitude's pretty cool, Bad Seed's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, but for the most part, it's like, it's not all killer, no filler by any means.
Yeah. I mean, Where the Wild Things Are.
Right.
I know you want to talk about that.
Anger came out. That was probably their worst thing they ever did.
Yeah. And you know what? Guess who helped write that one? Jason Newsted.
Oh,
shit. You were just talking about it a minute ago.
Right.
But, you know, Low Man's Lyric was another one that really struck a chord with me. I love that song.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Another thing that jumped out at me, songs on those two albums, were that a lot of the riffs sounded the same. I noticed when you listen to both those albums together, I keep hearing riffs and I'm like, this sounds like a song I heard 4 songs ago. Like it happened several times. Yeah. So it sounded like they weren't as creative as they could have been in that department.
Yeah.
Good songs. So
yeah. And one more thing, I think on Load, Thorn Within, just throw that song in the goddamn trash can. It's like a sex type thing ripoff, leftover type. And it's like just what it's like what Lars' dad said in the movie on all the new stuff. He's like, I would just go ahead and hit delete on that one.
Right.
Just they should have hit delete on that one.
Like Ronnie, because that used to always be my song as a go-to that I would joke about. Yeah. You know, and that's actually a good song.
It's a great song. Yeah. It's probably like the most different fucking thing they did.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I really liked it. It's got a lot of attitude, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of twang.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Reload, then Garage Inc. is next.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the biggest jolt to your system in the whole process of listening to every album in a row is listening to the end of Garage Inc. and the beginning of Saint Anger. Because that's not a great comparison, because you're talking about old songs that were recorded, because the end of Garage Inc. is all the...
Yeah. And
which was at the first half of the second disc. No, because the Motorhead songs were there at the end.
Yeah.
Well, either way. And then the next thing you hear is Frantic. But
I know.
But, so, we don't really need to say a lot about Garage Inc. We know it's, for the most part, it's all cool. There's some random stuff on there, but...
Well, yeah, it's like all their Motorhead stuff. It's their B-sides.
Yeah.
Bread Fan.
The first disc of that was all the new
covers, new covers. That's right. I'm sorry. I don't know. I like the Free Speech for the Dumb and the More I See, those kind of short, kind of punk covers. It's Electric is a great cover.
Yeah.
I Never Want to Hear Turn the Page Again. I've heard that a million times. And the Merciful Fate medley is badass. We all know that.
Right. Then of course the second album with So What and Stone Cold Crazy,
Killing Time.
Yeah,
that's just tried and true. You can't go wrong.
Right.
It's always going to feel good, and it's always going to be there for you.
Yeah. You transition from that into Saint Anger, and that's where
where we just shit the bed, Trent.
Right. So Saint Anger, as in most people's mind, is their least favorite Metallica album. I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. There's people out there that probably love it, but I know that throughout the years when people are ripping on it, you always defended it to a point. And, I got it like everybody else. I listened to it and then didn't listen to it forever. And then I was trying to remember when it was, a long time ago. I listened to it again in its entirety just to give it another shot. And I think it was probably around when Death Magnetic came out. So we're still, we're talking 8 years ago now. And I remember thinking, whatever. So I don't really remember. But whenever I did it this time, and that was a fucking painful journey.
Yeah.
It's just, you keep thinking, okay, the song's almost over. And then, you forget, oh yeah, there's 4 more minutes in this song. And, crazy bullshit that doesn't need to be here. And then you get to the shorter songs like My World, and they're even fucking worse than the 8-minute long song.
I know. I always did kind of defend it just because it's Metallica and they're my favorite band, and I'll buy anything they do because I'm a dork like that. But I listened to this again, and I like a positive I will give it is, like I've said before, if you watch that movie, you kind of understand it a bit more. I get the chaos of it, but just the production side of it, there's no excuse.
Yeah. And
I'm not even talking about the stupid fucking snare drum.
Well, yeah,
listen to those guitars. It's just muddy as hell.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Do you guys know how to turn a fucking dial? It's like, come on.
And even some of the vocals, they sound so separated from everything else.
Yeah, and he's just screaming and singing weird shit and weird voices, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? I just it agree listening to it. I think that, and I just you can't pay attention to it because it's just, hey, let's just pile a bunch of shit onto each other,
right?
And make a 12-minute long song, and scream over it,
right?
Which there's bands out there that do that and do it well. Isn't the case here, Trent?
Right.
I think, all in all, I like "Frantic" as a song. That "Frantic" will work. And I always kind of dug the Unnamed Feeling a little bit. Okay. But other than that, let's just, let's hit delete on all that too. There might be some parts here and there, but
there'll be parts where a riff will be going. I'm like, oh, this is all right. And then all of a sudden that's gone and turned into shit.
Yeah. I don't know. Because
it's like, you think about it, even if that was Black Album or something, those songs are still not good. It's like,
I know.
There's there's parts of them that are, and when that band from England, condensed them, took out all the crap and produced it well, and it sounded good. It was still not the greatest thing ever, because those songs aren't the greatest thing ever. But so you got to wonder, it's like, this is the same band that continuously wrote songs.
Yeah.
So it's not like they all of a sudden just can't write anymore.
Yeah.
Because we've got albums after this, obviously, that are great.
Yeah. So
it's almost like they just thought, see, we're the biggest band in the world. This is our test to see how much people will really fucking do with. It's almost like maybe it was a joke,
I don't know. It's like, you got to think their management had to be sitting around going, what are we going to tell them? Or fuck, maybe they were in on it.
You know what they could do now is they should do a 6-city tour where they played Saint Anger in its entirety, and they would probably fill the place up, because people are fucking.
Yeah.
If they came to Oklahoma City and played Saint Anger in its entirety, you would drive there to see them.
Well, you're goddamn right, I would. I know. See, you caught me. You got me. It's just one of those things.
I probably would too, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, but I was listening to our episode that we did, one of the first episodes we did, where we talked about, it was just an all Metallica episode, and Justin, who was on there with us, brought up a good point
from Egotastic Fun Time.
Yes, exactly, and it is egotastic and it is fun. It is, they had a DVD with that CD of them just rehearsing it and playing the whole album in its entirety in their rehearsal room. And it sounded a lot better because it wasn't that stupid fucking snare drum. And their guitars were, should be, more, and it just was a lot better. So that's kind of just an interesting side note.
Well, even when I've seen the times I saw something live, which was, I know in Wichita when we saw them, they played Saint Anger, they played Some Kind of Monster, I think, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else, but those songs sound way better live because they're heavy.
Yeah.
They're a little heavier. They're thicker, whatever you want to call it. It sounds like everything else.
Exactly.
Even though it's still
the same equipment and the same sound they're using for when they just played Master of Puppets or whatever.
Right.
I think, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's probably one I won't be visiting again.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see myself ever putting myself through it again.
Yeah, I did it. It's done.
Yeah. And I was listening to it like halfway through. I'm like, I can just skip this and tell Jason I listened to it. But I'm like, no, I'm halfway through this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish this just so I can say that the first 30 minutes that weren't a complete waste.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, before we got into this, we skipped you mentioned we listened to Human.
Yeah.
And then I Disappear.
Yeah. I really like Minus Human. I think that's a great song. No Leaf Clover is all right. But I like Minus Human better. And I Disappear, from the Mission Impossible soundtrack. It's okay.
That song and No Leaf Clover both sound just like something that.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think you're right. And I went back on YouTube and listened to their cover of 53rd and 3rd by the Ramones. Because that's not on Garage Inc. because it was later, and that album isn't on Spotify or nothing. And I used to have that Ramones tribute record, and I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, I wish that was on Spotify or something, because I don't know if I think I've got the CD somewhere. I need to pull that out.
Yeah. So I got it all.
Right. So after Saint Anger, then we're into Death Magnetic.
Yep.
And followed that by Beyond Magnetic, right?
Yes.
Four songs, and that's another thing that if you're listening and you never listen to Beyond Magnetic, you should, because those 4 songs are better than half the songs on Death Magnetic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they are. They really are. I think. I guess it was. I'm assuming, I never really got the whole story, but it had to be like leftovers from the Death Magnetic sessions.
Yeah.
But, 4 songs: Hate Train, Just a Bullet Away, Hell and Back, Rebel of Babylon, to me were much more, all 4 of those songs were hookier and like more focused than Death Magnetic. And the production was just a tad better. But the main thing is more focused, I'm telling you.
Right.
It was just more, Death Magnetic, I think, was like, okay, well, pissed everybody off with Saint Anger. We need to go back to just thrashing.
Yeah.
So let's just, let's just blow it out.
Yeah.
And it, and it did the job. People enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Great songs,
I remember the first time hearing, I can remember the first time I heard several of their songs, like going back to Until It Sleeps or, Saint Anger, and then the song, and then This Was Just Your Life was the first single, right? And it's like, it's with that clean guitar that builds up to something like they did in the 80s on several songs.
Yeah.
So it even kind of harkened back to that, but it's still this for the production of the album in a whole is obviously way better than, but
yeah,
it's not as good as it could have been either.
I know it's a little staticky, isn't it?
Yeah. But that obviously got changed with Hardwired.
Yes.
But I don't know if we want to talk more about Death Magnetic. I'm not jumping
I
ahead.
just, I think that, like I said, Death Magnetic was great. It was a good return to form, even though it might have been a little frenetic in places, long-winded. But then again, you had short, badass, just thrashers like My Apocalypse and All Nightmare Long. So, I mean, that was a good one. Day That Never Comes was great. It was just a return to their epic kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, you can't knock that one.
The Day That Never Comes was the first single then, right?
Yes, that was the first single.
This Was Just Your Life is the first song.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, definitely can't say too much bad stuff about that one. And then, when they dropped Beyond Magnetic, like I said, I enjoyed that a lot better. It kind of showed us what was to come.
Right. What was that lyric that always bugged the shit out of me on, and what song? It's like the second or third song on Death Magnetic. Is it the end of the line? What's the song after that? Broken, Beaten, Scarred.
Yeah.
What's that lyric he says in there that's just fucking ridiculous?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, well, never mind. It'll come to me later.
Yeah. It could be anything. There's probably a lot of words in that song.
Right. Well, he says it a few times, I think. But anyway, now we're up to the current album.
Yeah.
And, kind of like with the last couple, there's this big gap in between them. So they have time to, I guess, think of what they're doing. And we have a full reaction video for this whole album. If you click on our subscribe thing there and listen to some previous stuff if you want to know more about Hardwired. But this wasn't any kind of revelation because both of us have listened to this in its entirety quite recently.
Yes.
Because it just came out a few months ago. And it's cool to hear, that they combined everything from all this previous stuff that we just listened to.
You're right. You're totally right.
I mean, you hear all the elements of, Ride the Lightning and A Justice for All, the Black Album, Load. There's thrash stuff. There's, those kind of mid-tempo metal songs that they're good at, like the Sad But True type stuff with like Murder One and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they didn't really do a lot of that on Death Magnetic. So that's kind of what I was saying. And, it's just a good full circle point. And it's just it's cool to just see, well, this is where they've come. This is where they've landed after, probably 35 years or something almost.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to anything in between and you listened to Hit the Lights and then Spit Out the Bone, and the voice is different, the sound is different, but they're not really that far removed from each other because they're both just like fucking balls out metal songs.
Exactly. I kind of think like if you went back in time to like 83 and played them Spit Out the Bone, okay, all right.
Yeah,
but
we did it, guys.
Yeah, but then if you like went and played them like Thorn Within, we might run into some problems.
Cliff would still be alive because he would have murdered everybody.
Oh man, you never know. It's just I'm excited to kind of see, you know, what band we're going to do next, and kind of see how these bands, you know, have evolved. It's interesting.
Well, one other thing I want to say is I thought about if you did like a short form of this where you just took the first track off of every album and listened to them in a row. Every song is a good album and era, except maybe Fuel, because that's a little, most of the songs on that album, I think. Yeah. But every other first song is very indicative of what else is to come after.
Yeah. That's a great point.
And they always have great leadoff tracks for the most part, outside of maybe Ain't My Bitch, you know, because there's better songs after that. But
we'll make a CD. Mixtape.
Right. But yeah, Megadeth, I know you already started it, so I don't know if that's what we're going to do next.
Yeah, I think I'm on System Has Failed.
Oh, wow, you're deep into it then.
Yeah, I ain't messing around.
Yeah. So I think that would be a little more...
it
wouldn't be as drastic with them until you get to... You notice that change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the late 90s, it's when it kind of changes big, and then they have their kind of hills and valleys after that. But
exactly.
I think it'd be real interesting to do easy just to hear, because, you know, everybody always makes that joke about how, you know, if it's not broke, and because everything sounds the same, it'd be really cool to listen to them from beginning to end just to see if you notice some. I mean, obviously, you're going to notice a progression, you know, a little bit. Yeah. But it'd just be cool to hear, I think.
And maybe that might be like the shortest one we do. It might be a couple minutes.
Yeah,
well, it's AC/DC, you know what you're getting. See you later.
Right.
Or there might be some surprises. You never know.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
But we do know we're going to do Megadeth. We're going to do Guns N' Roses and Pantera. Those are the ones we talked about. I'm sure we'll hear more, probably AC/DC, Kiss.
Definitely.
Yeah, maybe Def Leppard if I can talk you into that.
Hey, I'll do it. I'll do any of them. Metallica, I owe you one.
Yeah, we should do who's a band that's got like 2 albums.
Oh God.
We could do Blind Melon. They only had 3 albums.
We should, you know what we should do? Let's do bands we both hate.
Who would that be?
Just to torture ourselves and talk about it.
Right. Yeah, just to see if you can find stuff to like.
Yeah, like we listen to every Bush album.
Right.
You know,
we could do Bush, Linkin Park.
Jesus Christ.
Nickelback.
No, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll quit. You can go fucking do this with somebody else, damn it.
All right.
No Nickelback.
Well, we appreciate you listening. If you've never listened to the podcast, click on the Thunder Underground, hit subscribe. We've got, like I said, reactions to some other Metallica stuff, the new album. We got Avenged Sevenfold's new album, the Rocklahoma lineup coming here in a couple months, and we reviewed and that kind of stuff. And then a lot of our podcasts are on there, but we've got 110 episodes now. We're on soundcloud.com/thunder-underground. Many of them are here on YouTube, and more will be added in the coming weeks, but all the new ones will be up here, so you can listen to that there. So that's another reason to subscribe.
Hell yes.
Hit us on Facebook. What else? Twitter, Instagram. We're on the web at thethunderunderground.com. Those 110 podcasts we've had on guys from Death Angel, Soil, Megadeth, Shinedown, Crowbar, Corrosion of Conformity, Battlecross, Overkill, tons of other bands. So just get on there, check it out. Appreciate you listening, and until next time.